Hey and welcome back. In this lesson we're gonna start the compositing process. So as you can see, I'm in After Effects. I'm using After Effects version 23.2.1, but you can follow along in any other version of After Effects. You can also use your own compositor if you maybe prefer to use something like Nuke or Fusion or even the built-in compositor in Blender. You can go ahead and use that as well. Most of the principles will be very similar to what I'm going to do here in After Effects. So let's begin by importing the plate or the footage file, the MOV file, and then also the render passes that we rendered from Blender. So here in the project area in After Effects, I'm simply going to double click. And then I'm going to browse to the folder where I saved the footage, which is the footage_clip1_1080.mov, and I'm just going to simply bring that in. Now if we quickly take a look at the properties of this MOV, you will see that it's obviously 1920 by 1080, and then you'll see the frame rate of 25. So that's just something to keep in mind, because that's going to be our final frame rate for our clip. Now this will obviously depend on the clip if you're using your own clip, what you shot it at, but for this instance it's going to be 25. So I'm going to drag this into a new composition, and then we've got our in and out frame set up and everything is the time and everything is correct. Alright, so next we can import our EXR sequence that we rendered from Blender. So I'm going to again double click to open the import window, and then I'm simply going to select the first EXR. You can see we've got all our renders or all the frames here from frame 1 to 150, and I'm simply going to select the first one, render 1_0001, and then here at the bottom just make sure to tick open EXR sequence and then click open. So we've got our image sequence, and all we need to do now is set the frame rate of our image sequence as well. So right click on that image sequence, go to interpret footage main, and then just set this frame rate here to 25 and then click on OK. Now before we start compositing, there's one thing that we need to do inside of After Effects, and that is to set up our color management to make sure that everything is going to match and the gamma is correct. So what you need to do is right here at the bottom it says project settings, or you can go to file and then project settings. So let's first go here, and then under the color tab what you need to do is where it says working color space, make sure this is set to sRGB. If it's set to none or anything else, usually it's I think by default set to none, you need to go in here and set this to sRGB, and that will just be so that we are working in the correct color space. If you don't do that, your footage or the render will look very dark. So just set that up, and then also make sure this linearize working color space is ticked, and then that compensate should be ticked as well. Alright, and that's all we need to change here. So click on OK to confirm that. And then what you also can do is you can check that your image sequence is also set to that same color space. So right click on the image sequence, interpret footage, and then main again. And then you'll see there's also a color tab here. And then just make sure that that is set to sRGB as well. And there where it says interpret as linear light, by default this is set to only on for 32-bit comps. So by default this is set to on, but only for 32-bit comps, and we are working in a 16-bit comp. So change this to on, which means it will be on for 8-bit, 16 and 32. So with that, click on OK, and now we are working in the correct color space. Also you can see here that our comp is set to 16-bit, and this is also being set in the project settings. So you can see there it's set to 16 bits. There we've got our color space, and yeah, that's all you need to do. So now you are sure that your project is set up correctly. Go ahead and save this After Effects file or this After Effects project, and then in the next lesson we're going to start compositing all those render passes together. I will see you in the next lesson.